Alright, so I'm doing this fight mechanics to this guy. So I would say one thing that's a problem with regards to this fight that I don't see a lot of people talk about, but maybe one or two people picked up on it. It's like the game mechanics for the movement of the character when it comes to anything, an AoE of anything, whereas for getting shot, or for getting on fire, or for running too long and get exhausted, or for jumping down from a high cliff and then landing. The animations for all these things interrupt a fight. And in the fight mechanics, that shouldn't be the case. Because the game mechanics for them, the animation is the game mechanics for the animation. The fight mechanics basically takes everything that's part of the game and then has that along with the fight mechanics. How, where, when, where you're placed within the fight. So the game mechanics, the standard of the game, is actually interrupting the fight mechanics at the same time, or it's layered on top of the fight mechanics. So not only you have to deal with the fight mechanics, you have to deal with the game mechanics in the fight as well. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but in a standard fight, like, the regular game mechanics should not interrupt the fight mechanics. The animation specifically of a character's movement should not interrupt the fight. The character should behave the way the game says based on the game mechanics, how they're supposed to move, how they're supposed to do things. Those are the standards that are supposed to be placed. But in the fight, when you have certain things, press R3, R1, certain things that are command, QTEs, or a situation where there's no QTEs, you simply have to base on judgment. The animation for the game mechanics, which is not going to be tell you when you're getting hit or when you're on fire, interrupts the actual fight. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually was intended for, if Leon catches on fire, it takes him a while for him to put his hand on the ladder to climb up the ladder. I'm not sure if that's was their situation. Like, if he gets on fire just a slight or just a lot, it will interrupt him putting his hands on the ladder and running up the ladder. So he has to finish being on fire animation before he actually fights the enemy. So I'm not 100% sure if that's part of the fight mechanics, but that doesn't seem that that's part of the fight mechanics. That seems like that's part of the game mechanics, and that shouldn't be the case. Like, if he's on fire because he's actually on fire, then that makes sense. But if that is actually interrupting and impeding your survival in the fight, then it's not the fight that's difficult, it's the game mechanics interrupting the fight mechanics that's difficult. I'm not sure if that makes sense. It's them layering on top of each other. So you're dealing with the game mechanics added on top of the fight mechanics. So when you can't beat an enemy, or it takes you long to beat an enemy, is simply due to the fact that the standard game mechanics is added towards the difficulty of the fight mechanics. So it's not like the mission is, the boss is that strong or that's hard. It's that you have to deal with both the game mechanic implementation and the fight mechanic itself. There are two things that are happening at the same time. Not many people talk about that. It's because they just want to breeze past it. They think, oh, it's part of the challenge. It's not part of the challenge. Being on fire and then going up a stairs is not part of a challenge. If there was no boss fight and you just got attacked by a random enemy and you try to get up a flight of stairs, that's not part of a challenge. That's simply an animation stat by the standards with regards to the game mechanics of the world itself. It has nothing to do with the fight whatsoever. It's like a frosting on the cake, but it has nothing to do with the cake itself. It's just an aspect added onto it. So it's not really part of the fight mechanics. It's just a frosting layered on top of the fight mechanics. That's all. I won't drop the game down a point for that. but I think they just didn't tweak it the right way. I think they just excused it. That's what I think. So I'm still at a 8.7 with regards to the game. This bullshit with regards to him taking forever to get out of his being on fire mechanic is not going to interrupt the fight. I'm just going to add this as part of the delay lag with regards to the character. Leon moves like molasses from RE2 remake. He still does the same thing here. I'm not sure if that was intended for them to have a game that behaved this way, but it's not my game, so I just have to deal with it. What I'm not going to deal with, I'm not going to give it points for bullshit that I know is bullshit. That's all.
That had to have done something.
To think you could play this foolish.
Guess your tap dancing days are over.
Your judgment.
Nimble son of a bitch. Hey, watch where you're swinging those things.
And that's another thing. It takes this dude forever to do anything. He has to go into the animation to grab onto the rails, then jump down. And he has to do the same thing to go back up. Like, you're in a critical situation. The moment the enemy does something, you see them about to do something, you have to react at the exact moment, to do it.
Should have known you were wearing bugs.
To think you could be this foolish. You heretic. Struggle in vain.
Guess your tap dancing days are over.
Makes no sense. Get on the goddamn ladder.
Hey! Watch where you're swinging those things.
Your judgment. Grant me your strength.
Running out of options, huh?
Holy fire. Cleansing hot. Repent, child. Take this. Our father, Lord Sadler, he is chosen.
mean, let's be realistic. If you're in a fight against a monster and stuff, and the monster is about to, charge at you, you see the monster charging at you, you think you would still be capping off? No, you would duck out the way the moment the monster fired. Or if after you duck out the way, you start capping off, would you stop capping off because all of a sudden you're on fire? Unless the fire is burning your flesh. Yes, and in the situation where Leon was trying to go for the ladder, he's trying to brush himself off of the fire before he goes up the ladder. But if the enemy is charging at you while you're brushing yourself off, try to get the fire off of you while you're going up the ladder. Which are you going to take more damage from? The enemy charging at you or the AoE of the fire? So the logical person playing the game, or in reality, if a dog or something was to charge at you to try to bite you, and your hand is on fire, which would you try to do first in order to take less damage? The fiery hand, or the dog about to chow down on your arm or something, you know? So you would get out the way from the dog, then you would brush off the fire from your hand. Not brush off the fire from your hand as the dog is coming towards you, and now you have to deal with now a dog biting you at the same time. You jump out the way from danger, then you brush it off. Or you brush it off way before the enemy comes towards you. But in a situation like a game and stuff, or even in reality, if the enemy or the dog or anything is too close to you, you take priority over what makes sense first, and then everything else after. Your safety of your life, or in this case, the safety of Leon's life. What makes more sense to take less damage? The latter. They don't understand that because when they designed the game, they weren't truly basing things on realistic behavior. Like, which makes more sense? You being on fire, or a guy coming at you, with a pickaxe or something. They believe like you'll take more damage from fire than a guy from a pickaxe. But in this game, that's not the case. The AoE damage from fire gives you less damage than the dude is about to charge at you with the pickaxe. So I don't know what's the hell's going on. Who gave this game high points and all that bullshit? But there are things I play when I play them. I evaluate everything as I'm playing them.
Leon! Quick! This place is coming down!
It was the same in Resident Evil 4, the OG. So this is just slightly better than that game. However, in that game, there wasn't that lag effects when you comes to elevator after a dude is on fire. They went for more realistic approach towards this, and the problem with going with realistic, it interrupts everything else. So you'll die multiple times simply based on the realism of the situation, not because you're not doing things the right way. You're dying multiple times simply because you're now dealing with a secondary factor rather
Give my
than
regards to your god.
you being shitty at you fighting games. So it's like riding a bike. You have to understand how to ride a bike, and then you get a hang of it, and then you work it. So that's all this fight was. That's all this game is. You have to get an understanding of how this fight goes down. You have to consider the game mechanic fight, and you have to consider that as part of everything else, even in the fight as well. So I'm going it in from the point of view of fighting and the game mechanics are separate, but that's not the case. They've included the fight mechanics and the game mechanics all at the same time to interrupt each other. Logically, fighting, pulling a gun up, aiming and stuff will always be part of the game. But inclusion with regards to fight, you can't separate them. You have to keep them together. You can't say, well, this takes that much long to do this because of this and this. That's because apparently and obviously they've allowed the delay in animation to be incorporated in the fight. And honestly, that shouldn't be the case. The delay is what makes the fight feel like it's longer. the delay effects is what interrupts your movement. When you're pressing down on the button multiple times, and due to the animation of the coding that says, well, it has to finish its animation before you do something, that's the bullshit. You know, if it has to finish taking its swing or putting its gun back before you could dodge out the way. You know, that's not realistic. I could dodge out the way even before I put my gun back into the, you know, the ready state. I don't need to wait for it to get into the ready, then do the dodge, if that makes any sense. So I'm still at the 8.7. I'm not giving it a point for that fight.
Leon, hurry! You're welcome.
Thanks. This fire's bound to catch their attention. Let's keep moving.
Leon, I'm not gonna turn into one of them, right?
I won't let that happen. I promise. Come on.
Okay. What's going on?
Well, at least we don't have to worry about being followed. Come on.
Hola, Luis here. You guys still around?
Well, I wanted to go home, but Ashley just had to see this castle first.
Perfect, because I have a present I want to give you. Medicine that will help to suppress the progress of your problem.
Where do we go?
Let's see. Come to the courtyard inside of the castle. We can meet up there. Ciao.
All right, Ashley. Luis just said.
I got it. Yes, we better go.
Got some new wares, stranger. You're in for a treat. Welcome. I got something new for you. I'll buy almost anything. Thank you. Well then, pleasant. Travels. Welcome. Came into some other bits and bobs too, mate. If you want, give that the care it deserves, mate.
What you see is what I've got. Your weapons are in good hands, mate. I'll see you right. You'll get some bang for your buck. I guarantee it. Why not try your hand at a new gun, stranger? Might save your life. What you see is what I've got. Come back anytime.
So I'm only gonna play this for about, I say about however long, maybe hour and a half. But yeah, maybe every now and again I think I explain things the wrong way. So I like to explain it every time. Game mechanics is part of the entire game, including in the fight itself. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Without the game mechanics, the character can't do what they do, left, right, aim, climb up ladders, none of that stuff. What I'm saying with regards to fighting is that there's a delay with regards to everything the character does. From the delay to stopping, to delay to raising weapons, because they're trying to go for realism. But that realism interrupts fights. So you have to address and accept the realism delay as part of the fight as well, not just the game mechanics, as part of the fight mechanics. So you have to adjust yourself towards the delay. That's part of the fight mechanics, even though it's not really part of the fight mechanics, part of the game mechanics. It's part of the fight mechanics. You have to see it in that sense. That's all I'm saying. That's why I'm not going to give it an extra point for that inclusion in regards to AoE damage or anything the character does. Because even though I know it's part of it, and it's part of what makes the game, I know it's also not something that's good, and it's not really logical 100%. It's logical, I would say about 75%, but it's more illogical 100%. So it's off by 25%. That's why I'm not going to give the game a point for it. If you were to run up the stairs from someone trying to take a swing at you, you won't keep capping off. You will run up the stairs before they take that swing. You won't wait for your bullets to finish firing before you run up the stairs. And that's the problem with games. As realistic as you want them to be, they will never be so because they follow a code that allow them not to be so. So that's why I'm not going to give it a point for it.
Courtyard's gotta be through that gate. Don't think our hosts are gonna roll out the red carpet. Things just keep getting better.
What are they?
Shh. Keep your voice down. quick already. All right. Give me some space.
Hang on.
I guess this is their idea of a warm welcome.